$100 million transfer announced. And a kid from the favelas who climbed his way up from the streets and broken goalposts steps on one of the finest stadiums in Europe. South American soil has been blessed with talent for generations. In this region, football was never a hobby. It was always about survival. This continent breathes football. But the very stars that this soil nurtured rarely remain on the continent. Some leave at 18, some earlier. A big contract and they are gone for good, contributing towards the legacies of European giants. So, is it fair? Why do so many players leave? Why are Latin American leagues not popular enough? This is Just Talk Footy, and let us dive deep into why top South American talents prefer Europe over their own land. Today, football is synonymous with Latin America, but mind you, it did not originate here. It was only in the late 19th century that British workers and merchants introduced it to the continent. It all began at the ports of Rio de la Plata, Buenos Aires, Montevideo, dockyards, and the rest is history. South Americans have absorbed this game since they first kicked a ball. They soon started competing as well. Despite being introduced to the game from outsiders, South Americans were building their own clubs and league structures at the same time as England. And in no time, they began leading the sport. Eventually, football spread to every corner of the continent, but the Southern Cone grew as quickly as Europe and surpassed them at the international level. In 1930, Uruguay hosted and won the first FIFA World Cup. 20 years later, they shocked Brazil at the Maracana. Brazil would go on to win 5 world titles between 1958 and 2002, securing 3 of them before 1970, becoming the only team to do so. Argentina lifted theirs in 1978, 1986, and again in 2022. Football became a way to demonstrate unity and identity since the ball enabled them to beat their colonizers at it. And beating the same people who invented it put South Americans on cloud 9, and football became more than a sport. It became synonymous with sovereignty. The beautiful game. In South America, football is not just about supporting your team on match day. You live football 24/7. A typical Brazilian neighborhood at sunset comes alive with football. Shirts tied to goalposts, barefooted players, kids arguing over fouls. Every street becomes a stadium. There's even a joke in Brazil that you need to know how to play football before you're given a passport. Regardless of the hour, Brazil's favelas are filled with kids playing in the alleys and tight spaces, where creativity is bound to boom as scarcity ignites innovation. In Argentina, football is a religion. Your team matters more than anything. Rivalries even split families and ruin good friendships. A country that has consistently produced and worships greats such as Lionel Messi, Maradona, and Alfredo Di Stefano. And then there's Uruguay, a country hosting a measly 3 million people, burdened with social and economic uncertainty. But they created history well known for its poverty and social problems, and managed to bring home 2 World Cups and 15 Copa Americas. They call it Garra Charrua, meaning relentless fighting spirit. This continent doesn't casually enjoy football. It worships the game and demands greatness from it. Across Colombia, Ecuador, and beyond, football is not something you let go after a point. Children dream of becoming stars, but even grown men still step onto dusty pitches to score a few. Ask kids what their dream is, and hear them say, "I want to win the World Cup for my country." For most, it's not a dream or a fantasy, but a plan. The continent is a furnace, burning with poverty, pressure, and passion. It throws kids into the heat early on, and out of that fire emerge great talents. Players possess immense talent, and fans are passionate, treat football as their religion. But the system surrounding the beautiful game fails to protect or promote it. This gives room for corruption and exploitation due to the structural inefficiencies at every level. For instance, in Argentina, Barras are not supporters. They have made their way into the club's ecosystem. In many cases, they influence tickets, internal politics, and promote violence and hostility. Violence is so bad that authorities tend to ban away fans in domestic competitions. Matches have been abandoned. There have been mass arrests, injuries, deaths. And Barras still think it's just their way of showing their love for the game. Local journalists and fans describe it as institutionalized. It is embedded so deep in the mix that uprooting it will require decades, together dismantling leadership structures across multiple levels of football. Then there's youth exploitation. The European dream with a fat paycheck becomes the leverage. Investigations across Brazil and other parts of South America have exposed unregulated agents promising European trials to teenagers. Families invest life savings. Some players are abandoned abroad with no contracts, no support, no pathway home. Financial instability has been crippling South American football more than anything else. Every domestic league struggles with long-term investment. Budget constraints affect training facilities, academy foundations, and player well-being. This has a tremendous impact on the entire football ecosystem, especially young prospects 17 to 21. Rather than a systematic activity, the structure thins out and becomes hit or miss, the continent that produces talents like no other, but domestic leagues are struggling to make ends meet. South American football is surviving not because of structure or stability, but solely because of the raw passion. And when youngsters see Europe offering infrastructure, safety, and a fat check, the exit door opens wider than ever. So why do players leave this mecca of football? Well, it directly or indirectly boils down to two things: survival and security. The salary difference alone explains a lot. A contract in Brazil will pay well, but a contract in Europe transforms your and your family's future for generations to come. And not just the salary, it is the stability and lifestyle. Roaming the clean, green streets of Europe is a distant dream for every kid that grew up witnessing violence and poverty on an everyday basis. Moreover, the stable infrastructure, medical care, and educational facilities makes them never want to go back. Plus, it is seen as a prestige to play in the Champions League and the Premier League. Elites of Europe are aware of this trend and sign a Brazilian wonder every now and then. While some wait till a player dominates on the domestic level, like Gabriel Jesus and Julian Alvarez, most of them rarely sign someone directly and instead choose to go via staging posts like Portugal, like Enzo Ferneandez. This makes cultural and tactical assimilation easier and also gives youngsters good exposure to European standards. South America is the gold mine whose jewels are being worn by European elites. South America is a breeding ground for football talent. For centuries to come, streets will be filled with kids chasing a ball, all aiming to win the next World Cup. Crowds are not just supporting their national superstar, but also rooting for their neighbor to become the next one. But passion alone cannot sustain a global sport where structure is inevitable to flourish. Without structure, stability, and protection, talent will always migrate. Until domestic leagues are built to complement this fiery passion of their people, the brightest stars will continue to leave, and that's the real tragedy. South America produces the jewels, but Europe gives them a platform to shine. The continent that gave the world footballing magic rarely gets to keep its magicians. The furnace will keep burning, the diamonds will keep forming. But the real question is, will South America retain its talent and reach the levels it is capable of?